Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most truly unbelievable stories in human history. Picture a country that the entire world literally called the Golden Bird. We're talking about a massive land, globally famous for its spices, silk, diamonds, and just immense, staggering wealth. Now, imagine that same incredibly wealthy empire being completely conquered, and not by another global superpower, but by a small, perfectly ordinary English trading company. It sounds like pure fiction, right? Like a movie plot, but it's absolutely true. The East India Company managed to slowly, systematically swallow the entire Indian subcontinent whole. And that brings us to the massive central paradox of our story today. Seriously, how did a few thousand corporate traders conquer a nation of millions? Were the British just overwhelmingly powerful from day one? Or was India somehow broken from the inside, long before the British ever fired a major shot? As you'll see, the East India Company didn't just rely on firepower. They used this lethal, calculated combination of patience, strategy, and most importantly, India's own internal weaknesses. Let's set the scene back in the 1600s. On one side, you have the mighty Mughal Empire. These guys commanded nearly a quarter of the entire world's wealth, exporting fine cotton, indigo, and tea everywhere. On the flip side, you have the British. When they first showed up in Surat in 1608, they weren't marching in with conquering armies. No way. They came bowing, hands folded, humbly pleading with the Mughal court just for permission to set up a few coastal trading factories in places like Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. At that point, they were vastly, vastly weaker than their Indian hosts. So, what went wrong? Well, the fatal flaw was fragmentation. After the powerful Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb died, the central authority just collapsed. India wasn't a unified civilization anymore. It splintered into these bitterly divided, constantly warring regional powers. You had the Marathas, Bengal, Awadh, Mysore, Hyderabad, the Sikhs, and the Rajputs, and they were all fighting each other for supremacy. The British basically looked at this and saw a massive, wealthy chessboard where the pieces were destroying themselves. They realized pretty quickly that if Indians just kept fighting each other, taking over would be incredibly easy. Section 1. The turning point. From trade to treachery. So, when the company started quietly hoarding weapons and building up forts in the super wealthy province of Bengal, confrontation was completely inevitable. But here's the crazy part about the Battle of Plassey in 1757. It wasn't really a military victory. It was a backroom conspiracy. A British official named Robert Clive literally just bribed the Nawab's commander, Mir Jafar. He guaranteed him the throne in exchange for his betrayal, so when the battle started, the Nawab's army just stood still. Then, jump to 1764, the Battle of Buxar. A combined Indian force finally tried to push the British out, but completely failed because of terrible coordination. And the outcome of Buxar was a real game-changer. The British forced the Mughal emperor to grant them the Diwani in 1765. That was the legal right to collect taxes across vast territories like Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. Just like that, the traders became the tax collectors. Moving on to Section 2, the squeeze, engineering poverty. Historians define this era as the drain of wealth. And guys, it was literally a mechanical, systematic destruction of the local economy. Here is how the scam worked. The British would use Indian tax money they were now collecting, to buy raw Indian materials like cotton for dirt cheap. They'd ship all of it over to England, where new industrial